think it says 2 scoops on here. Oh, it says 1 scoop. I'm gonna take about 3. I like to just triple my dosage on everything.
So here we are.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did not know you were East Coast. I just assumed because Stan was in Vegas and other people,
Right.
and I know they were on that. So my apologies, but
no, that's okay. I'm here in the cold state of Michigan.
Oh, okay. That must feel great right now being inside, though, for sure. Well, thank you for coming on and stuff. I know we're working with Marek with Infinite and everything, and I know just with what you were recently on with that podcast, same thing, and it's really cool that we're offering this to a lot of people, and so far the feedback has been stellar. Everybody's loved it. Some people don't like seeing what their numbers are, but it's definitely an incentive to get better. So
it really is.
It's been good. And myself, I know for wherever this goes, but I've been working under you and everything the whole time. And so far down 40 pounds, we're almost down 9%. Like things are going a lot better now than they were a few months back. And so I'm very thankful to have your oversight and the guidance. And it's cool to see our practitioners are actually real time getting more continued education with the conference in Vegas and all that stuff. So big fan as well. But yeah, so I figured I'd just ask you a few things, some of the stuff that we had from our members and everything that I feel like you are much more qualified, you, Allie, Stan, and stuff to kind of give us an idea of everything. And then just a couple of things with New Year's coming in, you know, people have their resolutions and whatnot. So
perfect time.
Yeah. So you're with Marek, obviously, and one of the practitioners. And so I guess we'll just hop right into it. But a lot of my clients have been asking lately how hormones affect mental health and vice versa.
So mental health is huge, right? So you really can't have complete physical health without having mental health and vice versa. So when you think of mental health is going to be more so where you can feel in control of the situation you're in, be able to use critical thinking to be able to solve solutions or problems, and feel pretty confident about yourself too. And a lot more goes into that as well. When we think of hormones, I would say when you have issues of mental health, say if you have problems of depression, anxiety, if you are really down on yourself, you feel like low energy, hormones can really be impactful with that. For example, when you talk about thyroid, sometimes when you have low thyroid function, you can feel very fatigued and depressed. And over time, it really compounds on each other. And if it's been several years and you feel like something's wrong with you, and really it's not specifically you mentally, it's really you have thyroid problems or something's going on there, specifically for men and their testosterone. I've had a lot of men come in and they're on SSRIs. They've been depressed for several years. They've had difficulties in their relationships, and looking at their hormones and getting them to optimal ranges really helps them from a mental standpoint. It all, even for women, example for men, but example for women will be like PMS symptoms, or they feel very depressed or anxiety as well. Maybe they need a little bit of progesterone. Progesterone is going to help stimulate GABA in the brain too. It's going to help them relax. So it's not so much, sometimes it is mental health and you need to work with like a psychiatrist or counselor and go along that route. It's very collective. You need to touch on every aspect, but really looking at your hormones and seeing if there's something there that can be fixed versus just, hopping on an SSRI or thinking something's just wrong with yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I've had, friends, close family friends too, and they go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist and they'll get tests that is measuring kind of the brain activity. And that's where they would see, it's not where it should be by their standards. I'm very unfamiliar with it. But when I was talking to them, I've heard plenty from you and some other people discussing how, even hormones being out of whack, it's like a domino effect that, when one thing suffers, that can cascade and snowball into other things as well.
1,000%. I'm always really, I don't know if I'm surprised with anything anymore, but I really hope maybe for the future is that in psychiatry or mental health, that there's more lab work that's coupled with mental health. And that's kind of like they go hand in hand a lot of times. So it'd be nice if they do. And when I worked in the hospital setting, there was a unit that had younger clients and ones that had like geriatric clients. Some of them would look at thyroid levels, but there's a lot more than just thyroid. So hopefully that'll expand in the future.
Also, side note, why did you switch over? I know you touched upon it briefly in the podcast with Alloy, but what made you want to switch from treating people to the preventative side of everything and just being proactive with your health?
Yeah. So working so I was a hospitalist. So basically that means when people get admitted to the hospital, come to the ER, and they need to be admitted to the hospital to have further evaluation completed. I go to the ER, I see them down there. I look at their labs and do testing and do consults and everything like that. They come in the hospital setting. I watch them through their hospital stay, and then I eventually discharge them. And seeing them, of course, that population, and then also working in the emergency department for several years, you see what happens at the end of life or the end results of diseases that no one took care of early on. And it was really, how do I not end up like this completely? Because it's when you are working with them day in and day out, you're touching their bodies, you're talking to them. When they say, man, I wish I worked out more, because when I was starting working out and kind of looking like I worked out, I'd walk in the room, you bring a different presence when you work out. And I mean, your body's your business card. So you walk in there and they're like, oh, I wish I worked out like you. You probably just came from the gym, right? And it's like you feel their regret that they didn't put that time and effort in. And I really believe if you do not optimize yourself in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you will not thrive in your 50s, 60s, 70s. You just won't. It's very difficult. So it was really being there in the trenches with people that are dealing with acute strokes, acute heart attacks, life-changing issues that could have been prevented. And like ASCVD is the #1 killer of people globally, like strokes, heart attacks, vascular issues. And 90% of its risk factors are modifiable, meaning reducing your lifelong exposure to high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And what I love about Marek is we get to see a ton of young people too, like 20 and 30s. And this population really doesn't normally get this type of panels done. And so I had a 20-year-old, I don't know, this week, I think it was, he had super high cholesterol. His lipoprotein little a was elevated. And so him knowing that information and that data that early on, he's going to be able to really implement lifestyle modification factors that will hopefully prevent from him having a stroke early on or a heart attack early on. That's pretty cool. So that kind of led me that way of like, okay, I don't like this. I don't want to end up that way. How do I get more and learn more about the other side of this preventative? And then you just go like down a rabbit hole and you just kind of, learn all that information and just be obsessed about it. And then here we are.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it can be super emotionally draining. Just working with those, my girlfriend's currently going through nursing school and everything. And, there was no shortage of stories that we hear every day. And it's just sad to see kind of the quality of life. And I think kind of the silver lining in the struggles of dealing with our health, for me, when I had the issues with my legs and some of the other complications I experienced earlier on, it was kind of that wake-up call of, I'm not even in the back half of the average life expectancy for a U.S. male. And here I am living such a shitty quality of life. And I need to be proactive. I need to fix something because this is just the beginning. And it can only get worse if I don't pay any attention to it. So for me, this was definitely easily the easiest investment of my money and stuff too. And it's been great having Cameron and yourself and stuff being able to reach out and contact, and kind of the continuing education that Marek provides through the Instagram, through the panels, through going to different, conventions and having, you, Stan, Allie, everybody speak. And so I think it's been great. I think it's just really hard because most people, when I talk to my doctor and stuff before Marek and stuff, they would be like, yeah, you're 20, you're late 20s and stuff, early 30s. Don't worry too much or anything. But I was like, if I'm consistent in all the wrong ways with poor behaviors and vices and different things, it's going to really add up in the end. And so I'm happy that I'm here. But
it's very similar to like in the gym. Like if you're lifting with like poor form and you're like trying to strengthen your poor form, you're going to cause injury. You're not going to strengthen your appropriate muscle. So it's the same thing like you're describing in like the health sense.
Yep. And that's where I'm happy it's the gift of, I know there's a book called Gift of Injury. It's really great. Like why, when bad things happen, it's such a great opportunity to, hey, we got to be a little bit smarter about what we do. We have to pay attention to certain things because obviously we got to this incident or whatever happened for however, whatever it was, poor behaviors, poor lifting, lack of sleep, all these things. With Marek and having them kind of getting this intervention, when you start to work with people and everything, so some of the people in the gym, they were asking, what is Marek? Like, so TRT, like, I know that's famous. That's like the bread and butter type thing. But I had people ask me, do they, you know, provide like peptides, SARMs? Is there steroids? Is there certain things? Is it nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals? Like what does Marek try to do? What do they offer? You know, to just anybody coming through?
For sure. I think it offers a lot more than medication. So I'll kind of start with that. So with Marek, you're really getting a team of people that are obsessed with all things health optimization and want to get you to that level that you are thriving at any age and help you to reach any goals that you want to accomplish. So it's a community where you don't feel alone. Like how you had said, you go to your family doctor and they're like, you're fine, no issues. So there's no judgment. We hear you. We are on stage ourselves. We are on platforms ourselves. We go to the gym every day ourselves. So you're really getting a group of very like-minded individuals that pretty much do all blood work and all this stuff every single day. So the community, I think, is a huge aspect that, and the continued education, like you talked about as well, the continued resources, because we want to be able to educate our clients and just kind of create this, you know, army of optimized humans, really. And so when you come in and you look at your lab work, so we get your lab work done, we talk to you about your lifestyle, we talked about how you're feeling, we talk about what your goals are, what your experiences are. And so go through all of that and then talk about how we can optimize sleep, how we can optimize your diet, how we can optimize maybe training. And a lot of times when clients come in from people that are with personal trainers like you, it makes it super easy for me because they're already doing it because you guys are so great. So we just are able to reinforce that of, yeah, keep doing what you're doing, follow that along. That's amazing that you're doing these reps. You're getting a protein intake and just kind of reiterating how important that is. Once we go through your lab work, so it's subjective and objective information. Subjective being how are things feeling, how is life and everything going, and then the lab work is going to provide that roadmap that's kind of guiding us to what your protocol would be. So walking through basic labs like your CBC, comprehensive thyroid markers, but extra thyroid markers, not just TSH and free T4. We also look at free T3 and your antibodies. Looking at your cholesterol panel, not just your cholesterol panel, but also your lipoprotein little a, which is like a genetic marker that tells me if you have more quote unquote destructive LDL. And then also like an ApoB, which is a really great marker because it's basically the number of vehicles that are driving the cholesterol to the arteries to be deposited as plaque. So looking at cholesterol, thyroid, insulin resistance, looking at, of course, your hormones, you know, like your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, free testosterone, SHBG, because they're all connected. And if you come in just thinking you're going to get testosterone, a lot of times there's so much more. And sometimes, you know, it'd be nice just to have just a simple TRT client, but there's never just a simple TRT client. It does not happen because testosterone is way more complicated than 200 mgs a test and an anastrozole. Way more complicated than that, right? So when you come in, you may think, okay, yeah, I might need testosterone, but okay, so your cholesterol really looks like crap and really your thyroid is way off. And I think if we fix the thyroid here, then we can go to the testosterone, or maybe your symptoms will resolve. So really, yes, we do have testosterone, we do have HRT, and we really can handle the testosterone appropriately. We've seen a ton of cases and dealt with a ton of cases of testosterone. So if some side effects come up, or if, you know, you had issues with one compound, we can switch to another one because, you know, we're so well versed in it. We do have, like, we can look at some peptides, ones that are available. We're not going to be able to prescribe steroids. Like, we're not someone that you're going to come to and get steroids for, because as a medical provider, I don't have a medical, like, I can't find I don't have a medical reason to diagnose somebody, you know, a D-ball or something, you know, like I don't, I mean, that'd be cool, right? And maybe that,
yeah.
I honestly,
Well,
I mean, really, realistically, if we had
mhm,
the power to do that, like we could help people like do it appropriately. But
mhm,
if you're on that, we totally understand there's no judgment. We want you to tell us everything.
mhm,
And we'll help show you in your lab work how to do it as optimal as possible. And we're going to encourage you to get your labs very stable, get your cortisol levels good, make sure everything's stable, like foundational wise. So when you do use those compounds, because we know that's going to happen. If you're going to be on stage, that's just part of the deal. We can understand it. We can't prescribe them. Can't really tell you the dosing and stuff. But
mhm.
we can look at your labs and see how things are going. So yes. But yeah, we can't really prescribe steroids. Maybe someday,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
FDA's not
Well,
gonna
yeah.
do all that.
Right. Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people that are very big advocates on the fuck around and find out method
Yeah,
of,
you will find
stuff.
out.
And you got the freedom to do so and all this, but I know
Mhm.
that's a whole nother world with other things too, and making sure, that you get what you get and the other things, like that's just a lot. So I wanted to
Mhm.
see, because I know like TRT is probably the most common thing ever since
Yeah.
being here. It's a lot of the clientele in this gym is older, and a lot of the older males are very, very open about TRT usage and stuff, because I had this discussion with my friends, and it was, what dictates being unnatural? Like, I have friends that are very purist, and they look at it like, hey man, if you do anything with a needle, you're unnatural. But I tried to tell them, like, my testosterone's 285. The recommendations for me is to just get back into a healthy range. And I know you were talking about, like, there's complications from having too high of testosterone. Now
Mhm.
there's complications to have too low.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
everything is almost a Goldilocks. There's always that
Mhm.
fine line of too much
Mhm.
and too little, and finding what works for you. So,
And coordinating
um,
back to that mental health, if we can get somebody's testosterone to an optimal range, their mental health,
mhm,
they walk in the room differently. I have an office here in my home state, and they'll walk in the office differently. You see them move differently. They hold their head like taller, their shoulders nice up and straight. And it makes a difference, even in their mental health
okay.
too. And so natural, I don't know. People just always want to be in a camp or say something. I just kind of,
Mhm.
you just say, let them say what they want to say. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just, yeah, when I'm, literally experiencing signs and symptoms and the other stuff, and a poor quality of life, like, I see it now, but I know there's also super physiological levels of test and the other things.
Mhm.
And yeah, sure,
Oh,
then
yeah.
you could go in that discussion, but it always makes me wonder, like, if I had a 900-pound deadlift, but my T was low, and then I got onto TRT, and now I'm pulling 910 pounds, but that's a shit ton of weight already. Do
Yeah.
people look at me like, well, it's because he's on TRT? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's after the fact that, I started
Mhm.
implementing these. But um,
Yeah, exactly.
so, okay. With that, so when we discuss and kind of the treatment plans and everything that you have for the clients and whatnot, like, I know this time and time again, people, when they're going to the doctors, like for me, I remember being so stressed out, and when I had my blood pressure super high and everything, I was really trying to tell the doctor, hey, I want to run tests. Like, I want to see everything. I don't want to just see one dimension of everything. So it was like pulling tooth and nail just to try to get a cortisol test to see where it was.
Yeah.
And then even by then, I have Kaiser and stuff. Even by then, the standards of, oh, it's not bad. But when I compared it to here and seeing
Yeah.
stuff, it was like, oh yeah, my cortisol was pretty high. And seeing an institution that treats people just for, you see that sick and diseased all the time,
Mhm.
versus Marek is, hey, we're about optimization. We're about,
Right.
high quality of life. I love you're saying, die as young as you can,
Die young as
or I
late as
forgot.
possible.
Yeah, die
Yeah.
young as possible.
Die
But
young
when
as late as possible.
as late as possible, there we go. You should get that on a t-shirt and stuff. I
I
love it.
got some on some t-shirts. I'm getting them made.
Oh, okay. Well, I
I'll be
see on the Marek's
check
website
out
they
my
got some
Instagram.
swag
Yeah.
drop. Yeah, yeah. We'll plug you in. I don't have a very big audience, but we'll
Yeah.
plug you in for sure.
We'll get there. It'll grow. It'll grow.
It'll grow. Yeah. I was wondering why Marek had all those new merch drops on the emails. I was like, oh, look, there's new stuff. And maybe it's one of yours. Every
Yeah, maybe they'll
practitioner has
partner
their
with
own. That'd be awesome.
Mhm.
But just trying to get tests. Why is it, one, so hard to get, like, to ask a doctor just to give me other stuff? I know obviously I'm in poor metabolic health and everything, and I was a heavier set guy at that time. So, and I've heard, losing weight and everything. But why is it always such a nightmare to try to get tested for more than one thing? And then two, why is there some stuff I remember discussing with Cameron? We have markers that are tested for with you guys, where as my general practitioner, they don't know about it. They don't know how it falls in line with what you're looking at with everything else. So why is that so hard just going? Because I know a lot of people that go to the doctor and they just it's always a nightmare trying to get what they need to get.
Right. And we hear that every single day too. And really, when you go to a medical doctor, or even kind of like how I was in the hospital setting, their goal is to find acute issues that are going on at the time and treat an acute illness or a disease that's actively happening. And they're very good at it. Like if you have something wrong acutely, you're going to go in and they're going to fix it for the most part, you know, if you're at the right place. But generally they're going to be very good at that, right? So going to them and asking them for certain labs, a lot of times they're constrained by insurance. So they don't allow them to order these tests. And if they did order these tests, and I've heard it several times, where they'll order a big panel like we have, and they'll do it for a little while, but then they'll get a letter in the mail saying, hey, you need to stop ordering all these labs. They're unnecessary. And if you don't do that, then we'll stop letting you be a partner with our insurance agency. So it's really more so, I think that they would like to do those things and maybe like to learn more, but insurance really constrains them. That's why I don't take insurance, is because they're really constraining our ability to test the appropriate lab markers and also for treatment options. So that's a big issue there. And a lot of it is education. It takes a lot of education. And really the average amount of time a provider has to spend with a client is about 7 minutes. And you can't even talk about your sleep and diet in 7 minutes generally. So they need to have a lot of patients come in because they need to make their salary. They need to hit their numbers. So that's one side of it as well. The other side is say they got your testosterone, free testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, SHBG. Would they know how to treat it appropriately? I get several clients from urologists that do 200 milligrams every other week, and they're just on a roller coaster with their symptoms. And maybe the guidelines will catch up and they'll be moving in that direction more. And hopefully that'll be the case. But also, do you want them to do those labs? Because are they going to treat you appropriately? You can get labs done anywhere online now. Like you, of course, definitely do Marek, but you can order labs anytime. So you can see the numbers, but you want somebody that can view those numbers from the lens of optimization or preventative medicine. So I can get a same simple lab panel that your family doctor or someone else would get. So a simple lab panel that you normally would get would be a comprehensive metabolic panel. So it would look at your kidney markers, your liver markers, like your sodium, potassium, and calcium, a couple more in that. Also, you'd get your CBC, look at your hemoglobin, hematocrit, looking at your red blood cells, looking at your white blood cells. Maybe you get some iron. Maybe you'd get a TSH and free T4, but my interpretation is going to be different than the medical providers. They're going to look for red. They're going to make sure it's in the reference interval. We're going to look for more of an optimization approach. It's kind of like you don't go to the eye doctor if you have like a throat issue. You don't go to the eye doctor if you have like a broken bone. Like, so it's like, you want to look at it's kind of like when you're asking somebody for advice, you don't go to somebody that's like if you're married, you don't go to your single friend's advice, so it's kind of like one of those things, like it's where you want to go for the advice. That's going to hold the value in the interpretation of the labs.
Okay. And then with that though, so some of these panels with certain markers that are assessed, is it true that with, like a general practitioner or a general, like a Kaiser or a Hope, wherever you are in the US versus Marek, the literature, you guys are always staying up to date on what's relevant, what's new, what is clinically significant. Whereas here, I feel like you said, with the testosterone application and stuff like that and prescription, I feel like it's sitting behind. Is that just because there's just so many people that need to be seen in the medical system that they just don't have time to update their procedures, like their standards of what they should be looking for? Or do you think Marek is just really far forward in terms of hey, like we're up to date on a lot of this stuff. This is what it shows for relatively healthy populations and what we're trying to get at with preventative care. Do you think there's,
Yeah, no, I really feel like we're definitely more pioneers in this field. I mean, with like Peter Attia describes it perfectly. Healthcare 2.0 is going to be looking at how to treat an illness. Healthcare 3.0, which is, I really do believe and see that huge trend moving in that direction, is preventive medicine, and preventing it from occurring. And in the providers, yes, the education is there. I do think a lot of times they're kind of stuck in a little bit of the old ways. And I do see some newer providers, some younger providers and nurse practitioners that are more open-minded to this type of practice. And we recommend you guys have a PCP right alongside of us as well, because we're also kind of a specialty in this. Like if a family doctor is going to refer somebody to an orthopedic surgeon because they need to have something fixed. Like if they don't have time to dive into their diet, exercise, and sleep and all these other options and these other hormones. So we're kind of like a specialty. And so we've just have more education behind it.
Okay. And so, well, that's good because I just feel like when I've had friends or family or my dad, somebody, they go to the general practitioner, it's either, hey, you just need this, that's about it. Or when we've asked about different markers, could it be this? Could it be tied to that? A lot of it is just defaulting back to, you got to lose a lot of weight. You're probably super stressed. And I know those are things you don't discount, but I'm always curious, like where patient advocacy, is like, where do you start to I'm a hypochondriac. I would say I'm always worried about something. I know in our meetings and stuff, I'm just shooting out everything and stuff. And so I always think it's something, but it's just more of a concern where it's like, I would rather be thorough than go unchecked or say something that, like, say as much as I can so I can give you all the pieces that you need that's relevant to you. Exactly. And then go from there. And with that, I think it's great. So, well, and so I appreciate that, and I feel heard and stuff here, whereas the other ones, like you said, I never knew that. On average, you get 7 minutes with your patient, then you're out. Yeah. So, but that would make a lot of sense now that I think about it. With that, though, in the panels and seeing the panels, how often do you see panels where that patient should be addressed like ASAP? Like hey, there's some big anomalies here in terms of stuff. We should maybe have you go get a scan, something more thorough. Does that come up quite a bit? Or is that something that's rare, or things where you're not concerned about it until maybe you've gotten a second round of blood panels to see where everything's gone?
Right. So I haven't seen anything where I need to say you need to go to the ER now. Like to me, that's an emergent situation. What I generally, and if in the lab panels, if there was anything like that, it would be probably if their hemoglobin was super low and they're symptomatic. I guess there was maybe one occurrence where the hemoglobin was on the lower side. She was symptomatic, had a lot of bleeding, like menstrual bleeding, and she was short of breath. So she was showing symptoms as well, not just the lab panel. There are always symptoms that go inside of it. Like if you had chest discomfort, chest pressure, your shortness of breath on exertion, we always ask those questions too, in combination with the lab work. So then it's like, well, let's address this a little bit more acutely versus kind of holding off on this. What I would say more often that I would see is a drop in ferritin or very low ferritin, which is your iron stores, or that lower hemoglobin too, where, okay, we need to find out why this is happening. This isn't normal for, let's say, a 50-ish-year-old male that has low ferritin. Are you having black or bloody stools? What's going on there? Do we need to do your colonoscopy? Because that's about due now. So it's usually not like an emergent thing, go right to the ER. It's more of, hey, what's going on here? What's the concern? We need to address this a little bit more quickly than others. I would say blood pressure wise, if we see high blood pressures, we want to make sure that they're getting a blood pressure cuff, they're checking your blood pressures at home, that they're staying stable. And if it's elevated, if they're having headaches or secondary issues with their hypertension, that they should go see somebody right away. So kind of like talking them through it and telling them what symptoms might lead them to want to go to the ER more so.
Okay. Yeah, because I think for me, there was that couple weeks between the processing of my stuff going out from LabCorp and receiving it. And then I remember LabCorp sends you a little sheet where, you know, they're just all these numbers and I have no clue what's what other than what their standards were. I was like, I don't even want to look at this. And going into the thing, I just, you know, the worrisome person in me is always like, all right, what's the bad news? How long do I have to live? Or the other things where like now I'm happy though, because it's, you know, I need to be on top of these things and having that paper trail. Would you say this is accurate? This would probably be something very valid of having these blood panels and stuff kind of, you know, 2-3 times a year. It kind of creates a paper trail in the sense that if something does go wrong down the line, you kind of you can see what was the normal levels or homeostatic levels for Jake when he was doing fine. And then we saw these elevations of whatever it was. Do you think that's something there? Like a paper trail is probably a good thing to have, or is it just kind of year to year, it will always vary with your health?
Oh, that's going to be perfect. You're going to have a trend of your lab work, and to know your trend is way better than knowing one snapshot in time. Because when you get your blood work done, it's basically one snapshot in time. There's some other labs like the hemoglobin A1C, which is an average of your blood sugar the past 3 months, but mainly it's going to be just a shot in time. So when you do get a trend and you average the 2 markers, that's more likely where you're going to be at. So absolutely, it's way better to have a trend of your labs over time. Usually I would say at minimum twice a year, every 6 months. When somebody's just starting on certain medications or thyroid medication or testosterone, there's a little bit more there because we want to tweak it and fine tune it. But generally every 6 months, and then you can trend it and see how you do. And while you're doing that, you're kind of creating your own reference interval, where the reference interval on the lab results are based off of the average results of that certain lab company. So different lab companies have different reference intervals. And so that's the average, you know, American going in there getting the lab work done. I mean, the average American, you know, mostly is overweight and not healthy, and that's not what we want to be. So that's, you know, you're building your own averages too when you're getting more lab panels completed.
Okay. So that's good. Yeah. I remember we had a pharmacokinetics class for one of our in college, and it was just a very, you know, how NSAIDs affect performance, other things like that, working with athletes. And one of the things was, he said, you know, you all are 18, 19, 20 years old right now. And he was like, I know it doesn't seem like you think you're invincible, but he's like, go get your blood tests, go do these things. It's like if you just bought your dream car, the $500,000 car, you know, you'd be religious about, you know, the oil changes, the checkups, fine tuning, all those things. And he said, the sooner you do it, the happier you'll be. And funny enough, you know, I hadn't thought about it at all until we started everything with Marek. And so now I'm very happy that I have done it. And I think it's been great so far. I just hate getting the blood work done and then being like, all right, is something coming? I'm always worried about the next thing, you know? So
I know, right? And really, we only have one vehicle. That's why I'm always like, we have one mind, one body, one life. And so you have one vehicle. And if you had only one vehicle or one car your whole entire life, you're really going to take care of it. So you really need to think of your body in the same sense and always get it checked up and fine tuned. So you can live to your marginal decade, which is the last 10 years of your life, and still able to bend down and pick up your grandkids and everything else. So, you know, I think that's a really good kind of a scenario to kind of think about.
Okay. Well, yep, it's a lot of the clients that come through the door too is having a deeper reason why. It's not the vanity of having the 6-pack or something like that. Now I have clients who I just want to be able to run with my kid, or grandpa wants to be able to feel like he's not a burden to everybody, and just being able to have a good time with the family and not feeling like everybody's waiting. Or the thing I love telling my clients is, you are responsible for yourself right now. And you think, if you start to lag behind on your health, you now create responsibility to everyone else, because when your health is in poor, when you're in poor health or anything like that, now it starts to weigh down on others, whether it's hospital visits, it's buying medication, it's making sure that you're okay day to day. And I think it becomes like just a no-brainer for people in terms of like doing the exercises right now, you know, fixing and lifestyle modifications and stuff like that becomes way easier when they have a deeper reason as to why they're going to be doing these approaches. So
and that's something that, working in the hospital as much as I did too, yes, the patients had a big impact on me as well, but the families that had to deal with their parents, you know, take care of their parents that didn't take care of themselves. And I have a 8-year-old son, and I don't want him to have to take care of me. You know, I don't want to be a burden to him. So me investing this time and energy in my own health is also investing in his future as well, because he's not going to have to take care of me or find a nursing home for me, hopefully. And, you know, all of that. And really, when you have to deal with the stress of finding a nursing home for your family and dealing with their dementia, it's awful. It is awful. And it's such a burden for your family. And so if you really take your health as a priority, that means from my perspective, I mean, when you really put your health a priority, that's equivalent to putting your family as your top priority as well, because you're going to perform better as an individual, as a partner, as a parent, in your job. You're going to perform better in everything. So you have to spend that time invested in yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it's definitely worth it. I would take, you know, a few $100s for blood panels and a consultation stuff a couple times a year, over thousands of dollars in hospital expenses and medications and stuff later down my life. I think that's a great trade-off.
Honestly, if you could somehow, and I'm sure we could figure it out, take how much it cost in, say, gym membership, supplements, medications, visits, labs, and compare it to the cost of if you didn't do those things. I mean, it's pennies compared to what it would be. So when you think of it in that long run as an investment, it's an easy decision to do.
Right. Well, and with kind of everything, this kind of segues into the next question. With everything now, improvements in medicine coming so fast, all different fields and stuff. Like, you know, I remember talking to my buddies, and this was kind of just like, you know, we're just sitting around shooting the shit. And it was like, man, one day you're going to be able, you know, you got a failing liver or something, you're going to be able to go to like a 3D farm or whatever. They're going to take the dimensions through scans. You're going to input some stem cells. We'll figure out the blood, like all these things. And next thing you know, I don't know if that's cybernetics or anything like that. We're half cyborg. I know some people think that's where humanity's headed.
People do, yeah.
But with all that and everything that's going on in terms of, I love Peter Attia saying, you know, the best prevention or the best way to treat stuff is early detection and the other things. So I know this was a question I had lofted over. Where do you think like the overall like health of the US is? Because we do have so many treatment options, prevention strategies, access to different services. But with our social media today now, it's a lot of fear mongering about, you know, certain fruits or veggies or blasting performance enhancement. You have some of these figureheads in kind of the social media stuff where it's the trend twins or stuff like that. And then the last is extreme bursts in very short durations of time, like just going all out for 2 weeks where it's a colon cleanse or whatever, like these little short-term things. And I feel like it goes so far away from all the beautiful things that we have and all the access we have to other things. And just as many good references and good people there are like you, and polluted quite a bit with, you know, people that either preach some crazy thing on one end of the spectrum, but we know that's what sells, right? Because it gets people talking. But I ask this question a lot with my buddies or people I see in the gym, is like, I don't know where we're headed in terms of the health and wellness as a whole for the US. Do you care to weigh in?
I think I see it from two angles. I mean, kind of part of it is I think it's gonna take a while because people still want instant gratification, right? Until people are okay with a little delayed gratification to actually reach their health goals and stop trying to do like the next best thing, that's gonna take some time for them to get that way. And I think, and at the end of the day, they always end up at, hey, I tried all these things, it didn't work. Let them try all the things. You know, let them try all the things, and hopefully they make it through without too much of an injury or you know, having too much issues. And at the end of the day, like we see them all the time at Marek. Okay, I've tried all these things. I've done all this stuff. I've done all these diets. And really, they finally come in. We look at their labs. We go to the foundational factors of, okay, you need your protein. You need your sleep. You need your resistance training. Let's fix these hormones. And then like, oh, okay, this will work. Stay consistent. You have a community behind you. And then things change. So yes, there's always crazy stuff. We're always going to see that. I mean, money is money. You know, money sells, or like things sell, and that's how you make money, by all this fancy talk and selling all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's really the basics, and basics just aren't sexy. The sexy things sell. and like the peptides and everything else. And peptides are great, but there's a lot of things like they're just not sexy. Like, let's take your blood pressure is not sexy, you know? So we need taking your blood pressure sexy again. Can we do that? Let's put that on a shirt too, right? So I think that's part of it, but I don't know. I feel I have working with Marek, seeing a ton of young people. It honestly gives me, I don't know, some hope as well that more people, it's like, it's pretty cool that the trend is getting your lab work done. Like, that's cool. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's the sexy thing now. Hey, I got my blood work done. Like, you know, so that's really cool. And so I feel like as more people are getting their blood work done over time, and they'll start seeing it, because it really switches a light bulb when they see their labs and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, shouldn't be doing that. So, and
this
then
is what's internally going on. Ooh.
Yep. And so you're kind of meeting them where they're at. It's the cool thing right now to get your lab work done, which I think it always should be cool. And you're meeting them halfway. You're talking with them about things. You're connecting with them. And so I feel like it's like nudging in the right direction, because there's a lot of young people getting their lab work done and making these interventions. And sometimes I think part of it can be detrimental to them too, because they're like, okay, I'm going to go to my cold plunge. Then I'm going to go in the sauna. Oh my gosh, I need to do like my 1 hour routine in the morning. And then it's going to be a little bit like really compounding on these like fancy like lifestyle things and all these gadgets and everything that people are wearing. I think that can be good, but it can definitely kind of go in the wrong direction. So there's this kind of like sweet spot as well with that too. So I think it's going, hopefully, I mean, of course, we're in this huge obesity pandemic and the testosterone levels are low. Maybe it just had to get to this to kind of move in that direction, you know?
Right. Well, and it just seeing like the access to so many different things. And I think transparency on social media, because you do see some people that, you know, they have that disclaimer almost every time, hey, I'm an enhanced individual. Like these things aren't good. But then you see other people where when I was little and I read so many muscular developments, men's health and muscular fitness, all these things. And I remember just like, I'll look like that one day. I'll look like that. And then getting there but the thing that reigned true was the consistency of good habits and finding the rocks that are in your jar, like sleeping, hydration, eating, keeping your blood work and making sure that's in check. But then the sand, the other things, maybe it's the new supplements you're on, the passive modalities with the red light and the sauna and the cold plunge and that contrast therapy. But I think it's interesting because for some people it might be ingraining just some crazy work ethic, but maybe it might be too extreme. And for other people, it's just more that inspiration of, hey, I've kept pounding away day after day and I'm finally seeing results. And I saw this from another trainer who wrote about it, but it was, you have these people that look at you like you're crazy for going to the gym every day. But yet their vices, it's totally normal. Nobody bats an eye. It's not taboo for you to go out on the weekend and just get shit-faced Friday, Saturday, wake up Sunday and enjoy football and stuff, but still have a few drinks to try to work over it. And it's crazy to me how, like, you know, I remember how much I was criticized when I was really in shape and stuff at the end of high school and college. Everybody was, you know, what are you doing? Why aren't you going out? Why aren't you partying? And I was like, I found going to the gym at night and doing this and then maybe pounding a giant meal of food and playing some video games with my buddies, that suited me. And I felt the best. I looked the best. Like you said, you almost command a different presence when you walk into the room, but it was always unwarranted criticism from other people, you know, oh, and you look like a horse or, you know,
I know,
crazy
right?
stuff. Yeah.
The criticism comes because they want to do what you're doing, but something's holding them back. So in order for them to criticize you, it makes them feel better. And hey, if that makes you feel better, do your thing. But you know, you're the one that's going to be in the hospital at one day and you're going to say, man, I wish I went to the gym. You're going to get new friends, like people that do decide, okay, I want to make myself healthy. I want to like get fit. Your social circle will change, and just get ready to change your friends. You might be lonely for a little bit, but you probably needed that. You probably needed that. Alcohol does zero benefits for you. And, you know, you really should cut it out completely. I can understand some people, you know, can't, but they should. You'll get a whole different circle. You'll feel so much better about yourself physically and mentally. And you just stay consistent. And once you get consistent and you lose even like that first 10 pounds, it's really the power of that first 10 pounds that you lose. And also when you start seeing like the cuts and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, that's just that drug. And it's like a drug and you get addicted to it.
Yeah.
And from a female standpoint, I mean, from my history, I mean, no one in my family worked out at all. And I was overweight. I had my son. I was, what was I, 28, 29? I'm not sure, 30. I'm 36 now, but I was about 220 pounds overweight, like unhealthy. And I just started going to the gym and I walked on the treadmill and I listened to motivational speeches. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't have a trainer, which I wish I would have had a trainer now. Like I know better now. Like, if you're working, starting out, New Year's, get a trainer that knows what they're doing. So
great plug. Like, I love it.
No, seriously, do it.
Yeah.
But it just was in my family, like they didn't really know what I was doing. And like I do powerlifting and it was like, I don't know, it just was different than what anyone else would do, but it totally saved my life. It really saved my life mentally and physically. And, you know, I woke up when I was 30s and had my thrisis, you know, like my thrisis of, you know, not a midlife crisis, but there is a thrisis. You are 30 something and you're like, what happened to my life, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just turn on some David Goggins here and go for a run. You know, so you do that. And
carry the boat, you know?
Yeah. I actually did I did a, what was that, a Ragnar race. I don't know if you guys have in California, but you run, I don't know why I ran. I do better with lifting weights, but running up out in the woods, and we called it Boat Crew 2. So it was like, it was fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From
That's
there,
cool.
it was cool. But yeah, I won't do that again. We'll just lift weights. We'll stick with
just
putting
for the experience.
weights up and putting them down. I'll do that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Keep it simple.
Yeah. So when you start changing your body composition and doing that, people will talk, but you know, you look better, you feel better. You'll just be their example. Just be their example.
Right. Were you, so two things, because you touched on short-term gratification, trying to get that in. So I really wanted to just touch upon the new weight loss drugs, but also with you kind of transforming and changing yourself and getting better, the body recomposition.
Yeah.
When you didn't know what you were doing, but you were making progress, was there ever, you know, because it's only natural, and even though we still see it and we see so many influencers nowadays, a lot of very strong, fit females that preach you should be doing deadlifts, you should be doing RDLs, you should be doing stuff with the barbell. I still feel like people shy away and they want to do like the booty band workouts or go up the steps where they do the hopping things, little things like that. But were you ever scared of that as you were going? Did you have some of those same kind of misconceptions that you thought, oh, I'm going to get way too bulky? Or was it just the progress was addicting?
Yeah.
And you just want to keep going?
Initially, I didn't know the heck I was doing. And at my gym, it was local gym, nice, very nice gym, very, hometown gym. Someone in there says, hey, do you want to be strong or do you want to look strong? I was like, I want to be strong. So I was kind of bullheaded a little bit, you know, I'm always like that, but I was like, I want to be strong, you know, cause I thought that was cool. Like I was like, I want to be cool cause I want to be strong. Right. Cause I always thought, okay, I have a bigger body. I'm never going to look skinny. Cause I always thought initially that I'm never going to be skinny. I'm never going to have little thighs. I'm just going to maximize what my body has. And I thought that was strength. And so I started out with deadlifts and bench and squat. And I just dove into that and did 2 meets, of course, not lifting a ton, but I've lifted, you know, weights and continued to do that. And so I didn't have that intimidation factor, but I can see how it's just intimidating because you go in a gym and you have these big buff guys lifting this weights and stuff. And you're like, oh, can I do that? And they really can. They just need some guidance. I think females just need a little guidance if they feel a little intimidated. And that's where the trainer comes in. And I really loved starting with the big 3 because I really built my muscle density. I want to say my muscle density I built through lifting a lot of weights continuously, not doing bands or anything like that. Just went for it. And eventually got someone to help me, show me how to do it. But, you know, just growing and putting in the time and effort. And really, it was, I don't think that I'm going to be skinny. So I'm just going to try to be strong. And then eventually, after completing that, I was like, okay, so I want to look like I lift and lift like I look. So more of a power building kind of split. And then it just transcended into doing a figure competition last year. And I do plan to do another one starting this business this last year has really messed up my time. And that's another thing. Like if someone's going to go for a competition, you got to really evaluate, where are you at in your life right now? What season are you in? I'm building a business, my first time business owner as well. You can't prioritize training for a show. You're going to get on stage and you're going to look the same as you did last time. So transitioning into that, I like bodybuilding though now too. I mean, I still like lifting heavy, but I think just women are just maybe just intimidated. And sometimes I'll hear women say, I can't lift weights. I get too bulky. And I'm like, are you sure? Let's do this in-body scan. We'll watch and see.
Yeah, let's see it. Well, I love those people that, you know, like they see the most extreme examples of like a Miss Olympia or something. It was like, well, of course, that's a complete outlier and everything like that. Or, you know, once you start to look good and feel good, you know, there's a guy who's been up and coming, Sam Sulek, and he's been doing all these long form videos. But he said, when I first came to the gym, I hated looking at myself in the mirror. But as I did it over and over and over again, he's like, God, even on the off days when I'm sore and stuff, I want to come in, get a pump. I want to stare at myself. And even if it might be a little vain, he's like, I've worked hard for the progress. So if you can see, 1,000%. if you can commit and see yourself down the road and what could be, you know, it's addicting. But I feel like a lot of people right away that, you know, oh, I don't want to get too big. Or I see guys where it's like a lot of the males that I work with, they always think they know what to do. They're like, you know, don't tell me I know what I need to do. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And it was like where females are very receptive. They're always going hard. Guys just, I can do what I want. I watched Arnold back in the documentary lifting or pumping iron or whatever. And it was like, but there's a lot more nuance to it. I'm just trying to help you avoid some shortcomings that I myself had or other members.
And prevent injury. Prevent injury for sure. I mean, that's 1,000%. I mean, we can stand in the gym and watch people and we're like, oh no, they're going to hurt themselves. Don't do that. You know, sometimes I want to go talk to them, but then I'm like, I don't want to be that person that says anything. But and then a lot of the young kids, you know, young like college kids that I'm like, oh, this wasted testosterone, get in there, get yourself arrested, you know? And the biggest thing is don't exercise. You're there to train. You're not there to exercise. You're there to train your body and build that muscle. And and it has to be hard. I couldn't be a trainer. That's why I just look at the labs and say, hey, go to the trainer.
Go to the trainer, live an active life, you know, do this. Well, that's not too bad. But I'm sure you get a lot of people that ask you, what do you do, just because of what you've built so far. And that's great. Like you said, it's your calling card. So you could, you know, if you ever wanted to, you know, I know there's a lot of the trainers here, they do a lot of like online clients, and they said it's the dream because they don't have to get back here at 6 a.m. for that one client being like, all right, we're up here and we hate our life at 6 in the morning. But
my boyfriend's a personal trainer. He's a CSCS too. And I'm like, hey, go to him.
Yeah. Well, so with the New Year's coming around and you have all these people that set their goals and everything, why do you think a lot of people end up not reaching their New Year's goals that they set for themselves? I'm just curious to hear yours because I already have a good idea. I'll tell you after, but I'd love to hear. Why do you think a lot of people don't reach theirs?
So I don't think that they reach theirs because they're unrealistic with what they're willing to give up to reach their goal. So they set a goal. I want to, I don't know, look like I did back in high school. I want to lose weight. Do you know what it takes to lose weight? And are you ready to lose weight? Are you ready to do what it takes? And are you willing to stay disciplined on a daily basis? Because it's not going to happen. It takes 66 days to build a new habit. Are you willing to do this for 66 plus days and build new habits? Because that's what we want to do. We don't want to just have a goal and, you know, if we fail, you know, we say we'll do it next year. We want to build habits and it takes time. And I think part of it too is if your family's not on board, say you're a mom, you have your husband, and then you have 2 kids, your family has to be on board with your goals as well. So it's a community effort, you know, and it's something that I think a lot of people set unrealistic expectations and they feel really bad and guilty about themselves and they kind of go way down the hole on the other side of things. So I think that's probably why.
I get a lot of people that come in and they're like, hey, this is my year. I'm going to do this. And in the first week, you know, I'll ask them, they'll come to me like 3 weeks later, my shoulder's hurting. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, what'd you do? What did you start for New Year's? And they're like, I did CrossFit this week. I did an MMA class the next day. I ran some pickup games at the local gym. I worked out twice a day, and I'm running 3 miles every morning to start doing. I was like, what'd you do before that? And they go, oh, I just started. I was like, so the input that you're giving is not matching, you know, your recovery and everything. And you're just all this volume, all this stuff, like you're just throwing the whole kitchen sink way too soon. And
too much at one time.
You know, and I try to tell them, you know, if there was a training program that got everything better, you know, you could jump higher, run faster, bench more, you know, all these things, you know, people would be doing that, but it's so goal specific and everything like that. So I try to tell people, like, really define your goals for the year, pick one thing and do that. But I'm just curious because I know New Year's is right upon us, and I always want to know why, like, you know, because you've seen so many people where they need to change their lifestyle habits, and you need to set manageable things. You know, what's optimal is not always realistic, you know, especially for the mother of two. I can't tell her, hey, the literature states coming in 4 to 5 times a week is optimal for fat loss. Meanwhile, she's, you know, working restless, like long nights, keeping her, like, you know, feeding her kids, working her job, you know, coming home, making dinner, like going through schoolwork. There's so many more constraints in her life. And so you just have to make it work and find something that's feasible for that. So,
and they just have to give themselves a little bit of grace. You know, if they're in a certain season of their life where they have young kids, give yourself some grace. Don't do all the things. Start with 100 grams of protein a day. Literally, if you can that's a win of the day. Just have one win every single day and they will stack up. So you get 100 grams of protein. You go to the gym twice a week. You know, you do your resistance training. Start small, build it up, build it and go. Like, you don't have to do everything at one time. I know a lot of people come in, they come in with all these supplements and they start on everything, and they really have that drive. But in order to continue that drive, they have to see wins too. It's like the power of that first 10 pounds. That's why even like with the GLP-1s, being able to help somebody lose weight will set them on a new trajectory, because they get addicted to how they look and how they feel. And they're going to build habits while on that GLP-1 agonist or the semaglutide or tirzepatide, whichever one it is. And if they're doing it appropriately and building that muscle, eating the protein along the way, it's going to be a little bit slow and steady. And once they start losing that weight, you've really built a different person. And I do think like the GLP-1s, it depends on what you can have a camp on either side. People say like it's cheating, or it's, you know, it's cheating, or, you know, you don't need to use medications for this. I think people that say that, and maybe an unpopular opinion, I feel like they've never been overweight. They've never struggled with it. And if people that are overweight, they have 5 to 20 years left to live if they can maintain that. Their morbidity significantly increases. So if we have a tool that is used in addition to resistance training and protein intake and helping them build habits, I don't see the harm in utilizing them as long as they're used appropriately.
Do you think so I know, you know, a lot of things that are spun on the news and media, like, you know, one of them recently was a headline of, hey, it completely, in a couple individuals, it completely shut off motility. Like there was nothing there and people had stomach paralysis or something. Yeah. Is what you're seeing on your end with the literature and everything, is that suggestive of that's something to be worried over? Or are these just the outliers that are, you know, in every study, there's always a couple things.
There's always going to be outliers. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these medications have been around for 20 years. So they've been around for a very long time. So they're not just like brand new medications. They started a very long time ago, and they've just gotten better and better every generation that comes out. When people talk about stomach paralysis or like intestinal paralysis or anything like that, I also wonder what else is going on there. Did they take super high dosing? Did they follow the dosing appropriately? Were they drinking fluids? Did they have something else going on? You know, there's always more to it than a headline of, you know, Ozempic caused stomach paralysis. That's not appropriate. I'd like to see how often that happens. The only thing I hear is nausea, and generally that's because, like, from the clients that I take care of, and that's usually because they're just sensitive a little bit, and we have to just manipulate the dosing a little bit. And the risk reward ratio of losing weight compared to a small potential risk of being on Ozempic or semaglutide, tirzepatide, any of them, really outweighs the risk, I think, of being on those medications, as long as you're taking them appropriately. If there's muscle loss, we need to keep an in-body scan and watch, maybe because I have an in-body scan, I'm in my office as well. We need to watch your muscle mass, see where it's going. If we start seeing it decline too much, what's going on? Let's recheck the protein. What's your resistance training like? Do we need to come back on the dose? Like, you just have to stay on top of it. You have to have a provider that doesn't just hand you a script and said, hey, see you in 6 months to a year.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I'm always curious, is I've seen the debates on Facebook, other places where everybody just said another thing where, it's the American culture of, instant gratification, you're going to get these things. But I also think, like you said, I've seen from family practitioners and stuff with family obesity. Dr. Arnoldsky, one of the guys on Instagram, he discusses a lot in depth about how, it's crucial that you kind of set yourself or see these small victories with losing the weight and stuff, and why maybe some people like on keto or low carb diet, they get excited even if they depleted that water, that glycogen, because they're only having fats and protein. They get motivated because they see the scale move, and that leads to more productive lifestyle behaviors or more consistent lifestyle behaviors. And so if that can lead to that, that's great. And then I think a separate issue entirely is the supply and demand, because I know people were talking about how Ozempic's in short demand for diabetics that need it. I think it was, whereas, a lot of people are buying it as like, I'll just add it in and see what happens. But I know that's something totally different, I guess, in terms of what we're talking about. But yeah, so, okay. So you think if it really helps the individual and it gives them a better quality of life or beginning stages to making better changes in their life, then you're all for it, right?
Yeah, I for sure am. I'm definitely going to give somebody the opportunity to utilize it. It's going to decrease their food noise. It's going to make them feel fuller quicker. I'm going to be able to help them lose the weight that they've, put on. And over time, I think people that have ate a lot of sugar over time, they have the big sugar cravings. It really limits those cravings for them and decreases that food noise. And they're utilizing it potentially. I had just seen an article, I didn't read it all the way through, about them utilizing it for alcoholics. So people that are addicted to alcohol, they're using these medications. They don't feel like that addiction anymore to it. So super interesting medications. Any medication, you want to use it appropriately. It has risks, it has benefits, and it depends on the individual, and just continued monitoring and adjustments, is what needs to happen, not just go to some random clinic and get testosterone or semaglutide in this sense and see how things go from there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, so we got just two questions left. We're making great headway. I think this has been very enlightening. One of the clients, the last thing was, he is on TRT. He's over 1,000 in terms of the last time he tested and stuff. And he's been enjoying it. Him and his buddy, they're from Wisconsin and stuff. They go back out and stuff, but he's been very telling me about tadalafil and the other stuff. Cause they're like, this is what, my practitioners have recommended to me. So he's been great because he's been around doing it for a while. Yeah. He said what's interesting for him is that when he goes on vacations or, he's inactive for a couple of weeks. He's a very active dude and stuff, but he feels like a cloudiness and stuff. And so I guess his question was, how does elevated exogenous testosterone affect like cognition over chronic periods of inactivity? Like, do you know of anything about that? Is there something just because he's not coming to the gym and making good use of, hey, I need to recover and keep going? Is there something with that, with being sedentary and having a high test? Or
this question was interesting. It kind of took some time to think it through, because there's a lot of nuances behind it. Like, how long is the person sedentary for? What are the testosterone, free testosterone levels? How are we aromatizing to estrogen? Like, it makes me go like to all these other levels. It makes me wonder what else is happening. If it's something where he's going on vacation, when you go on vacation, your sleep is completely off generally. You're not in your normal environment. You're not eating your normal foods. You're probably not getting your regular supplements that you normally are taking. You're off on the schedule. You're probably drinking some alcohol. So I would go more that route versus, hey, I have higher exogenous testosterone. And when we say exogenous testosterone, that just means we're taking exogenous testosterone to get a level that is optimal. If we're taking levels that are super like physiological levels, that might be something a little different. But I would think it's other factors outside of the testosterone per se. Like if somebody was sedentary for long periods of time, saying they just sat on the couch and injected themselves and got fat, I mean, they're going to have more aromatase because of the adipose tissue that's going to aromatize more estrogen. They can have more fluid overload. You know, I mean, I could see how it wouldn't be directly just the testosterone, but maybe potentially because of the inactivity for a prolonged period of time. So I wonder how long the prolonged period of time he's talking about.
Yeah, I think he was saying like a couple of weeks because he'll go back out there and visit family. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, the lifestyle stuff, it just for that short amount of time, you know, I've heard being adjusted to your bed and stuff. When you go to another setting, you don't fully get Yeah, but it was interesting because he said some clone.
Is he still taking the testosterone like the same, like on the same schedule as he's out there?
I'll have to ask him. I think he's pretty consistent about it. He brings it with him and everything. And then I believe he said him and his buddy had just started a peptide. They've been talking with their doctor. And I know he was really excited. We just missed Allie coming in. She did something with Jay Ferreira. I forgot the name. Ferrugia. And and so she wasn't able to come out. And so he had missed that because I was like, I'm sure maybe she would know. But I figured somebody at Marek would know a lot more. So I figured I'd just ask it for him because he's been trying to, he's really interested in getting his blood work done from another thing and comparing what Marek says with his doctor back in Wisconsin and stuff.
And really in the comparing is also comparing it from that optimal lens as well. Maybe there's something else there. Maybe there's some DHA pregnenolone, but I mean, if it's only 2 weeks, I feel like there has to be something different. It's more so with recovery. It's more so with sleep. It's with nutrition. Because it's just like, if it happens so quickly like that, we're staying stable on testosterone, it shouldn't have those effects.
Yeah. Well, and he said he's been feeling great and stuff when he is in the gym and doing that. And he was like, I very infrequent, not many vacations and stuff, but he's like, I've just seemed to notice once in a while when I'm doing that. I wasn't sure what that would be. So, but yeah, this is great. I'm happy he'll be able to see this and everything. And then just with the, kind of a little case study, because I know when we do these informational segments and the other stuff, like people get either an abundance of information and they don't know kind of where to start. It's kind of paralysis by analysis. I'm sure there's a lot of people wanting to start their New Year's off right, but maybe they don't know. So I try to go, all right, we'll present this to you. What would Jessica, if she was in their shoes, like where would you start? Because you obviously you're not just here doing the clinical side of things and with medicine, it's you live the lifestyle, you're an active individual, you compete, you do all these things. So what would Jessica do if she was in their shoes? So female, late 20s, for New Year's, they want to improve their body composition. They want to get more tone, become healthier, grow their glutes. You know, they go out a couple times a week for food and drinks with their friends. And they don't really have any background in lifting. So maybe this sounds similar to what you were saying when you first started, just doing the treadmill and stuff.
It might have been me. You're describing, I didn't go and drink, but you might be describing me a little bit.
Okay. Yep. Well, we'll put them in their 30s and say it's arthritis as well. So we can just categorize that. But so they do some circuit classes with friends and they want to hit the gym. They can only do it 2 to 3 times a week. They're in somewhat of a healthy weight range, but they want to lose about 20 pounds. And their family histories include metabolic disease. So maybe, you know, people with some diabetes, something like that, where type 2 runs in the family. Type 2, right? I think it is some. Yep. And then their version of healthy eating is acai bowls, salad, vegan pastas. They've been jumping on the bandwagon with all their friends and what they've seen, and kind of those very carb-rich, starchy bowls that they get told all the time that it's crucial, but they don't really get their protein in and stuff. But they don't feel like it's helping them overall. I know I already sent all this out, but what would you do for somebody if you're in their shoes and you're just starting out? What's an approach you would take and try to making it simple?
I would say, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do I want this result? And what is the result I'm desiring? Okay. So if I want a body that my body fat percentage is around 20%, where for a female, we want like around 18 to 20. So I'm thinking that I want to be muscular-ish, probably. I want to grow my glutes. Okay. So what is going to take that? So this is my goal. What is it going to take me to get that goal? I need to know protein. So I would say people don't know what protein is. So I always ask, tell me what protein you have for your food. How much protein do you have during the day? Aim for 30 grams per meal. Let's start with that. So we're going to start slowly. We're going to focus on protein. We're going to get a trainer that's going to show us how to do these things and show us how to be appropriate in the gym, know how to use the machines, and use it with proper form and techniques. We're not going to get hurt. So I would do protein, resistance training with a trainer. I would ask myself, why do I need to go drink alcohol during the week? What is the purpose of that? Am I ready? Am I willing to potentially lose friends and maybe family over making this transition? Do I have time to go to the gym? What are my other priorities at this point? Am I in my final semester of nursing school? Probably not the best time. That's a tough semester, you know, so I can still work out. I can still do that. Don't just push it off, right? But still, your timeline, like you don't want to measure something. I like Alex Hormozy had said this too, is you don't want to measure your success on the wrong timeline. So kind of looking at that timeline, seeing where that, you know, what that time frame is, and just start. I started on a treadmill. I don't know what the heck I was doing. I started on a treadmill, turned on Motivational University on YouTube, and you just go, and that will happen, but you have to do it consistently. So if someone was going for just like, what are the basics that I need to do? Hit protein at every single meal, learn what protein is, learn how to like look at the measurements, maybe go on MyFitnessPal, kind of see. You don't have to jump into doing all the macros or anything. Just start with the protein. Look at resistance training. If you're too nervous or can't afford a personal trainer, there's a lot of things you can look to at online, but be cautious with that. So it's kind of hard to say that, but cautious with that. Maybe we'll give you some guidance, right? I know where to go if you really do it.
Yeah.
And then if you're just in the gym and you're just on the treadmill, that's okay to start off with. I know that's not from someone that loves resistance training and loves bodybuilding and probably skips the treadmill more than I should. Even if that's all it is, that you go to the gym and you're there, you're going to be more comfortable. You're going to see how other people are working out. Be careful with that too. But also like you're going to be there and be in that environment, maybe get to know somebody else and just be willing to change. You have to. There's no other choice. There's no other choice because what's the other option? You're not going to get a big booty that you want to have. You won't have that summer body. And really, summer bodies are made in the winter. I mean, it can be done all throughout the year. Of course, it needs to be, but depends on how 0 to 10, how much she wants the goal.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, I see it all. And this seems something that's a very common thing. And what people, the sparse information they do have is, you know, oh, I got to do zone 2 cardio, you know, the circuits and stuff, because I feel like that's much more challenging. Like perceived exertion seems to be something a lot of people are vying for, and they don't trust. Like if I do heavy sets of deadlifts, they're like, it's tough in the moment, but I'm not getting sore. And I try to tell everybody, if you're never sore, that's not a good thing. If you're always sore, that's not a good thing. There's that fine line in progressing with volume and periodization and stuff like that.
I think I would say 80% resistance training, 20% cardio, and maybe some circuits. But I mean, if the circuits get you in there and starts going, I mean, that's okay. But please make it towards like more time spent with resistance training versus cardio. Right.
And what's that catalyst that will bring you coming back and stuff to keep consistent? So, okay. Well, there we go. Your younger self is very thankful, you know, but hopefully there's some outfits.
Get some cute outfits, because you will totally lift like 10% more in the weights. Like you will. So get some cute outfits. You're going to like it.
Directly correlated with performance enhancement, you know.
That is like a really good performance enhancement, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, I feel for guys, like it's it's become like a ritual before workout where you pound your gorilla mind and stuff, you know, and everybody's just all there and they're, and people, I remember Mark Bell was saying, like, he's like, is it the healthiest thing? But it's like, look, your buddies get excited going to like Flame Broiler before you go in and having your chicken bowls and the drink. If that's what gets you guys amped and keeps you consistent, like by all means. But it's pretty different nowadays, you know, because social media has everybody has their pre-workout, you know, kind of traditions and stuff like that.
Well, they got to get their like, you know, their phone stands and stuff and stand that up and get that all ready.
Yeah. Well, that's half the battle is just make sure there's optimal lighting, and we're at a gym here.
The lighting's good, tripod, you know, don't forget that. But
anabolic AF, you know, like everybody has to look great. And yeah, I feel like now people spend more time in their setup than they do their programming in terms of, you know, they're like, today I'm going to do this. It's like, today we're going to take a shot from the side. Let's see how good we look.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But
yeah.
Okay. Well, so that one's down. And then because I know, like, you know, TRT and some of the stuff, I have a lot of guys that I know, my buddies, personally and stuff, that are in their 30s and stuff, early 30s, and they're just starting to feel the effects of being sedentary and stuff. We had a buddy pull his hamstring because he was trying to race somebody else and he hadn't done anything in forever. It was just like, it's funny, you'll see what guys do nowadays to determine like draft picks in NFL and stuff, or they'll race to see who gets it, and like half of them never even make it to the 40-yard mark because they pop their hammies. So, but anyway, so they're kind of experienced. Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is I kind of did this as an ode to, hey, we got somebody who's very qualified to talk about these things. What would your suggestion be? So he's 50 pounds overweight, constantly sluggish. He feels like he's too tired to hit the gym after work. Sleep is not the best, and they drink 2 to 3 times a week. They used to be in their great high school shape, and they want to get back to that, you know, the glory days. They want to try to do, you know, the gym 3 to 4 times a week. But, you know, they get off their job, they do mostly fast food, and they don't want to spend too much time prepping food. Where, you know, if I'm trying to get everything sorted out for the new year and stuff, what do you think my best course of action is in this approach?
I kind of like to talk to them about like maybe why they think that they got in this situation or what their constraints are too. Like, why are they 50 pounds overweight? What's happening? What's happened in their life that got them to this point? And identifying some of the downfalls and some of the things that do need to be changed, and kind of helping them kind of identify them. Like, why do we need to drink alcohol? What do you feel? Why do you need to do that? What are you associating that with? And just kind of like giving them a different viewpoint, or maybe kind of asking them a couple of questions to kind of see why they got to the position that they're in. If they're really willing to make the change in the commitment, if they're ready to do that, which they 100% have to. I mean, this person that you described, I can see their lab panel without even seeing it in person. I mean, they're going to have elevated liver enzymes from fatty liver disease. Their testosterone is probably 200-300. Their free testosterone is probably sub 10. Estrogen, maybe low, but maybe higher because of their adipose tissue. Thyroid function is probably pretty low. If that person started on the journey of weight loss, which is the number one natural way to increase your testosterone is weight loss, and started on that trajectory, they're going to be able to increase their testosterone levels a little bit. They're going to look better. They're going to feel better, and they're going to keep going. If they've been overweight for a very long time and they have a lot like lower testosterone levels, or we look at their LH and FSH and they're very high or they're very low, maybe they do need a little bit of testosterone to help them, you know, get everything going and make effort feel good again, like Andrew Huberman says. That may be part of it. It's not always part of it. And I always want to make sure somebody tries to improve the vehicle before going on testosterone. Usually it's like a 40, 50-ish year old guy that has been overweight for a really long time, and they need that extra little boost initially with their testosterone, depending on where it's at. So it's not always that initial answer. The initial answer is always, let's pull everything back, start very simple and basic. Let's optimize your sleep. Let's get your protein in. Let's do a little bit of exercise, put in some effort, because even if they ended up going on testosterone, that's always their first question is, where's my testosterone? What can I do to make it better? And that's always going to be there. And that's okay. That's what we want to know. Testosterone is a very good marker for a male to know how healthy they are. If they have low testosterone, it's the testosterone they deserve from the body that they've created. So if we can improve the vehicle that the body's going to be in, then they're going to handle the testosterone better if they need to actually go on testosterone. And maybe they won't even need testosterone at some point. You know, it's not just looking at the number on the paper. It's also looking at their symptoms. So do their symptoms match the numbers that they're seeing? So kind of the same thing. I mean, really, I think, you know, like kind of circling back to everything on social media, it sounds so complex to lose weight and build muscle, but it's really not. It really is consistency. It's protein. It's resistance training. It's optimizing your sleep. And yes, there's a ton of like nuances behind and ways to really like fine tune it. But when you're really just starting out, it's overwhelming. You're like, I don't know what the heck to even do anymore. Like, how many minutes do I need a cold plunge? What does the temperature need to be? What I need? Okay, let's just start at one thing and go from there. get rid of alcohol. You do not need alcohol for anything. Why would you want to like mind or numb the mind that you're in the body? Like it just doesn't make sense. You're going to make wrong choices. You're taking calories in, you're eating more, like you're ruining your liver. It's just not good. So get rid of the alcohol, get your protein in, do your resistance training. You know, we need more masculine men. That's why I really kind of went towards this direction of really wanting to help men out and take care of men, because if you can make a man more masculine again, they're going to be able to take care of their family and their females, and the females will be able to live in their feminine energy and be able to be a ton better, be able to be more productive and like really feel much more taken care of when their man is more masculine. So even if that's just the why, to be able to take care of your family and kids, figure out your why, eat your protein, do your resistance training, and make it happen. I mean, it is just, I mean, you're in your 30s, like no other choice. You're gonna end up in your 40s, 50s, you're gonna end up with a heart attack. Maybe go work in the hospital setting for a little bit and see what it's actually like when somebody comes in.
Go get scared a little bit. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You be scared a little bit. And sometimes that's what's happened is like, oh, this happened to me and now I'm really scared. And hey, that's what happens. That's what it is. But just go work in the ER for a day. You'll know, honestly.
Yeah. I just tell people too, it's such a win that you just walk through those doors and you make a commitment or a decision to just do something, and
100%.
don't think, just do. As soon as you start picking up those weights and stuff, improvement in insulin sensitivity, lower blood glucose, you know, bone density increase, like all these things, it's so great that you can implement it. And I think a lot of people get so scared about eating too much, too low, and they just try to make it way more than what it is, where it's like, look, even, you know, like Lane Norton, some of them, they just said, even if you lift in populations that lift consistently and they might not be in the best metabolic standing, they still have much better blood work than people that are at the 100%. Same weight relative with just a sedentary lifestyle. So if you're going to use it, partition those calories, those nutrients and everything towards muscle building, even if it's in a surplus, as opposed to, you know, being like, well, if I can't lose the weight, I might as well not do anything. It's just like, it's pulling all those different levers like Peter Attia talks about.
There's so many different levers. And really, I don't remember where I heard this quote from, but like the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. If you can go through the front door, I mean, I really feel that. And when people get in there, then they feel better. It's completely, and it's always the gym. Yes, they can do stuff at home, but honestly, it's when you're in the gym, you're more accountable. You like work harder, I think. And I don't work. Maybe someday if I had a really nice home gym, maybe I could, but it's more so at the gym. I feel like it's a community, and you're and like you are held accountable more so when you have other people around you.
It's the environment. Well, and people watching's fun. Like you get a little motivated. I had my own garage gym for a while, and you know, some nights I'm like, it's right through that door, and I just couldn't like, for something about the environment or the camaraderie, being with a group of people, like, and pushing each other. And I think it's crucial, like you said, getting the right people around you and aligning yourself with similar values, because that's going to pay dividends way down the road. So,
and I think one more thing with those two other scenarios, literally just blood work will be that motivator. It really will be like going through an actual blood work and going through the whole panel and having that discussion with somebody. That's enough of a motivator to get a lot of people going, even if it's just their cholesterol markers. You know, it just changes everything. So
that's my last two clients. He got diagnosed with pre-diabetes, everything like that. He's all this, and his doctor is actually his cousin, and was just like, hey man, you got to change. Like, you want to be around for your kids. So I came in, I was like, great, you found your why. You found like an altruistic reason. You want to be there for your family. You don't want to be a liability to them. This is solid. Like, you already have a great, like, you didn't come in here being like, I just want to get swole. It was, hey, I want to be there for my kids. And it's like, if you can find that reason why, that will keep you consistent, but also proper foundation of good habits. So, and
those good pumps, you know, show your potential, and then it'll keep coming back, right?
Well, when you start to look good and everything, you just it gets addicting, and whether or not that's considered vain and stuff, it's a nice thing, because at least you're practicing every day mostly healthy values and stuff. And then, you know, people really dive off and do some other stuff, but you know, like, to each their own, and you want to see how far you can push it. You get one body, one life, why not?
Exactly.
I appreciate all the time, everything. I think we went through everything, and it was great. I think everybody learned a lot. And I also think for people that are in this scenario where we have in the other room, in the gym, this will be nice, because at least they have some idea of, okay, what should I prioritize? And you kind of gave them a nice little pyramid of, you know, priorities where you should be looking at first. But yes, blood panels, you're sleeping, you're eating what's realistic for your lifestyle, and trying to, like Layla Hormozi says, you know, getting your lifestyle, your environment tailor-made to you rather than trying to go out and accommodate what's there. You're consistent. You just were consistent in all the wrong ways. So let's figure out how to turn that around and find you better consistency with healthy behaviors and stuff.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
But I think we're great. That's great. And then I wanted to say thank you for everything. Thank you for the time. And all right. Thank you. You too, Jessica. Bye.
Bye-bye.